Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. You're joining myself and my illustrious panel today to talk about some really interesting and quite funny topics. So as you can obviously see from the title, we will be talking about James Cameron dunking on Marvel. It's kind of funny. This isn't by any means to sort of negate any of his Avatar stuff. It's just funny. They're interesting comments from people, that they deem him a legend. We've got numerous news from Henry Cavill, how close he was to playing Bond. He's also done his first interview post Superman news. We'll also be discussing Black Panther 2 first reactions and also the meme that white people are not allowed to go and watch it opening weekend. Then you will be joining myself and Andre for a special Halloween discussion on Silent Hill, the 2006 movie, a retrospective. I myself have watched it today, and I'm all primed, ready to go to talk about Andre's favorite horror movie.
Well, one of them at any rate. But
you sang its praises last time. So
I stand by those praises.
No, I tell you what, I really enjoyed it. So joining me today is, of course, my co-host Paulie from the Latino Slant. How are you doing, good sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Good to be here. Transmitting from Mom's living room.
Mustache is looking full, sir. That is a full mustache.
Yeah. It's very Mexican.
I got some sort of handlebar thing going on here into my beard, so we're
look good.
All right.
You look good.
Looking amazing. Thank you very much. Looking very, and Paul is looking very Edward James Olmos, which looks amazing on you.
Brilliant. And speaking right now is Andre, of course, from Midnight's Edge. How are you doing, good sir? Thanks for joining me.
I'm doing excellent. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Hopefully, this will be our regular sort of Thursday panel. When time permits it. And then we've got Nick from Echo Base Network. How are you doing?
Doing good. Just sitting here hanging out with you guys and drinking a cold brew.
Oh, very nice. Very, very nice. So just as a real quick one, ladies and gents, links to everyone's channel is in the description box. So please do check them out. Also in the description box is Mr. H Reviews live archives. It's a second channel where streams will be put in their entirety, as well as, because not everyone can watch a whole 2-hour plus stream, highlight clips for very specific topics. So check it out and please do subscribe, because these conversations are very interesting. You guys have thoroughly enjoyed them. I've thoroughly enjoyed them. So stay tuned for more of that. Just to clear it up, Olaf always drops in and says, there's just a thumbnail. There's no video yet. Just as an FYI, when I do the intro, I just do it with the thumbnail on the screen. I do that on purpose, ladies and gents. Just to throw that out there so we don't have any confusion. So I think first and foremost, let's talk about Avatar director James Cameron coming out and dunking on Marvel. Now, I mean, I'd say it's a dunk, but it's not a dunk. Like, let's not get confused. I'm not sitting here going, it's a crazy dunk that he's done. Oh, he's absolutely killed Marvel with that comment. Because that's not the case. The commentary itself was more specifically about the characters within the Marvel shows. But the sort of main tag there is, it's not the way to make movies. So I think first and foremost, what's everyone's opinion of James Cameron and his major love for Avatar at the moment? Anyone, just dive in.
Yeah.
Don't wait any longer. It's fine.
As your co-host, I'm kind of deferring to the more illustrious Nick.
Andre, Cameron.
Let's have Nick. I want to hear what Nick has to say before I weigh in.
Let me start off by saying I love James Cameron. I mean, he has made some of the best movies of all time that are in my top 10 list. I love the projects he's done, but some of these Hollywood actor or directors and stuff have seemed to become kind of senile and bitter in their old age. It seems like, you know, he's done such good stuff. Like, you know, like just shut up about other movies, comic book wise or whatever. If people like it and they're going to see it, you know, what does it matter? Just stay in your lane and do your thing. You know, he's an awesome director. He's made some all-time great movies, and it just doesn't really make any sense to me why he feels the need to chime in on this and make these kind of comments. It's kind of ridiculous, I think.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I can agree with some of that things. The reason why I'm asking for everyone's sort of opinion is because this is a conversation where he's talking about Avatar before he talks about Marvel. So there's actually a direct comparison there. So that's why I wanted to discuss him
and
first.
I'm in the minority. I did not like Avatar, and I'm probably not even going to see the second one.
Yeah, I didn't personally care for Avatar. I didn't care. It was a
for those that may not have seen his comments. Let's run through his comments and see what he actually said this time, because it's not the first time he dunked on Marvel.
Yeah, so this time,
you want me to read, or you want to read, Nate?
Oh, I'll do it. So he's talking very specifically about Zoe Saldana and Sam, right? Their characters. So Zoe and Sam now play parents 15 years later. In the first movie, Sam's character leaps off his flying creature and essentially changes the course of history as a result of this crazy, almost suicidal leap of faith. And Zoe's character leaps off a limb and assumes there's going to be some nice big leaves down there that can cushion her fall. But when you're a parent, you don't think that way. So for me, as a parent of 5 kids, I'm saying, what happens when those characters mature and realize that they have a responsibility outside their own survival? When I look at these big, spectacular films, and this is the call out, I'm looking at you, Marvel and DC. It doesn't matter how old the characters are, they all act like they're in college. They have relationships, but they really don't. They never hang up their spurs because of their kids. The thing that really grounds us and gives us power, love, and purpose, those characters don't experience it. And I think that's not the way to make movies. Andre.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to unpack here in these comments. First and foremost, he is not wrong. Because what he's talking about is a very different kind of filmmaking. In a sense, he's talking about thematically about what the movies really are about. Basically, what he wants the Marvel and DC movies to be, certainly have an element of, is Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan. Because when you look at what that movie really is about, it's Captain Kirk coming to terms with that he is now middle-aged and he has regrets over the life that he has lived. He has no kids or anything like that, so he doesn't have to worry about being alive for someone else. He doesn't have that, but he has regrets that he doesn't have that. And this is part of the reason why The Wrath of Khan is such a special movie, because it's a movie, a mainstream movie, a sci-fi movie that deals with growing old. And that's kind of what he wants to see more of in Marvel and DC. He wants to see the characters get to a stage where they suddenly, and I can, as a parent, I know exactly where he's coming from, because like before, it's like I could do whatever, it doesn't really matter because it's just me. But suddenly, as a parent, your life changes in a sense. Now you have to live for someone else. It matters what you do because you have to be there. You have to provide. You have to guide for the next generation. And it's everything else you do is completely secondary to that. And this is something that he's going to feel very strongly, having 5 children, as he said. So he has that very, very much so. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, the problem with that. The thing with DC and Marvel is that they are 4-quadrant movies with wide appeal. It's not just that they are immature movies. It's not just that they deal with kind of like adolescent themes, kind of like carefree from you as when you're 20 and stuff like that. The reason they're universal is because teens and kids who are under that age, they can recognize themselves into it. They want to be the hero. The people who are in that age, they are living that carefree non-superhero equivalent. And even older people, whether you have children or not, you will remember back to the time in your life when you could live like that, which is why those themes, which assumes you kind of like live like a 20-something lifestyle, that has universal appeal because everyone can recognize themselves into it one way or the other. Here's the problem with what James Cameron wants. He assumes that everyone has the experience of being parents. I don't know that people who aren't parents, no matter what age, are going to feel what he does. And he is now talking about making a very mature movie. And you absolutely need those movies, but those kind of movies, they're no longer 4-quadrant movies. Now they have a very specific appeal to those that have children and certainly have experienced that life changed now. For all the audiences out there that don't have that experience, that thing in Avatar is going to go right over their heads unless he has really pulled it off masterfully. So he's not wrong. But he can't hold Marvel to that standard because their movies cost like $200 million each, which means they have to appeal to everyone. That doesn't mean that you don't have to see yourself on screen, but you do have to empathize with the characters on screen. And everyone can do that right now. Do what James Cameron says right now, and the only people who will be able to do that are those in that situation who's lived that. You're going to rule out huge swaths of the target audience, and I question the wisdom of doing this in an Avatar movie of all things. This is one of the most expensive movies ever made. It needs to appeal to everyone. The first Avatar did that. As a storyteller, I understand what he's doing. I understand where he's coming from. But if he wanted to tell that story, the budget needed to come down because he's automatically going to limit the appeal. So I think that he's going to make probably a better movie, but one that has less appeal, and that many people are just going to be like, well, that was some touchy-feely drivel. I don't care about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, so with respect to his comments on Marvel, it's interesting because a lot of people are commenting on, well, what about Hawkeye? What about Iron Man? Katie High sent a super chat and did it here. Hawkeye after the snap, etc. The thing is that they didn't hang up their superhero suits, as it were, which is the kind of main point that he was making, is that the characters haven't evolved past their superhero days, which there's a lot to be said for exploring that. But I guess as well, his commentary doesn't really make any sense on Marvel because you don't really have Marvel superheroes when they're not superheroes anymore. It doesn't work within the confines of that comic book setting, not for Marvel anyway. It has to be a different kind of comic for that. There are older themed comics out there where sort of anti-heroes, people that hang it up and sort of reluctantly come back and things like that. There are those kind of stories, but it doesn't work with Marvel. Not as
Logan is a good example of that, I think.
Logan, perfect example. Perfect example, So it doesn't really work. I don't really understand why he was making those kind of comments, because it's comparing chalk and cheese at the end of the day. They're non-comparable. And your points are perfectly valid as well, Andre. They make perfect sense.
If I may, you haven't really seen any such pattern theme in any of the Marvel movies, not even Logan. Here's why: because Logan, he's an old man, he's old and he's carefree, but basically he didn't raise that child. He suddenly had being a parent of a child that's already come of age thrust upon him. So you don't really feel quite that connection right there. Like any parent is going to feel the connection he has with his daughter, but he only learned of her existence, and she's going to be fine even without him. All he has to do is to die so that she gets to live. That's the exact same thing with Daniel Craig in the last Bond movie. He didn't have the experience of, I have to live because I have to provide. My offspring's continued existence depends on me. On the contrary, exactly like Logan, he had to die so that his child could live. And that was a sacrifice both of them were happy to make. And also, you did see it a little bit with Tony Stark in Avengers Endgame, but here's the difference. You saw it from an outside point of view. Same thing with Hawkeye. You didn't live vicariously through Hawkeye. He wasn't a point of view character, neither was Tony Stark. You saw them as you would see any other parents at your job or something like that. These weren't the stars of that movie. Marvel has never really dwelled into those themes. The closest thing is actually an Ant-Man with the daughter there. That's the closest thing you get to it.
Closest, but even then, it's not the same as what he's.
No, because that's something of a deadbeat dad.
Well, a terrible dad, because in the latest Ant-Man, his lack of good parenting causes his daughter to create something which sends a signal into the quantum realm, and then they all get sucked in, and their lives are all threatened. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about people, sacrificing their sort of superhero nature for their kids, giving up. Because I mean, the points are very specific, where he says how, Sam threw himself off of onto a flying creature, and then Zoe threw herself off of a limb, etc., etc. And it's like, okay, yeah, but so they won't do that now moving forwards, supposedly, anyway, is how it sounds.
Exactly what it sounds like. I understand exactly what he's saying. He's like saying, before they could just jump from the highest tree and assume that it's going to be fine. They could live carefree. You can jump and it's going to be fine. As a parent, you can't do that, because you know that, well, if it doesn't go fine, it's not just me that's fucked, which I don't have to think about, but it's my child that's indirectly fucked too, and that's everything.
Yeah.
And that is when you suddenly have pause. Like, I can't risk myself on this, because it's not just yourself you're risking. You're risking your entire family. You're risking the future of your kids, because you have to be there to make sure that they'll be fine.
I completely.
So I see exactly what he's saying, and I don't disagree with it. However, there is a time and a place and a budget for everything. And what he wants to see, maybe $200 million plus movies isn't the budget for it. And maybe Marvel and DC movies aren't the place for it for that exact same reason. Now, you could do it in a $30 million movie, but not in a 200. And I don't know exactly how much Avatar is, but I think it's gonna.
I think
it's gonna come and bite him to do it there.
Well, I thought the budget was like $1 billion for all of them. Like, that was the financing or something like that.
Probably. And that only tells me that this is not the way to do it, because creatively it can be an amazing success. I mean, it only tells me that he goes for more mature themes here, which ordinarily would be a good thing.
Way of Water.
But not at this budget level. For that, you need mass 4 quadrant. You need the 15-year-olds to go into this and come out with a high and recommend it to all of their other 15-year-old friends. They can't be like, it was just a bunch of boring people like my dad.
I think I completely, honestly, we're going to segue off into something else now, because I have just had a bit of a revelation here. Well, not a revelation. I just Googled it, and I'm really shocked. Yeah. Holy fucking Christ. So it's $1 billion for James Cameron's Avatar sequels. Now, they say it could be a bargain, but I disagree. This is 2 years old.
Okay, when you say was actually Scott Mendelson, the king of shit takes.
Yeah, well, exactly. But there's even worse, because they even quote they even talk about the marketing budget that they projected to be. This is 2 years ago. It's like $1.6 billion it's going to be. $1.6 billion for Avatar and its sequels. 250 million each. Plus marketing each. That's 4 movies.
Four movies.
4 extra movies.
So that comes down to 250 million per film on average then.
I mean, that's insane.
Which for 4 movies, it's not too bad.
You're
but
banking.
If marketing is included, if that's just a production cost,
no, that's just
then you
production.
have to pay. Okay, so then you have another $500 million to market it on top of that. Well,
so
we need
Bob
like $3
Chapek,
billion
he's going to want to
start.
Chapek is going to want to strangle Bob Iger for having bought Fox and landed them with this.
Fucking, I cannot.
So what's the
math?
Yeah. So what's the math? Four movies at
200.
1.8 billion.
No, so it's 4 movies at 250 million a pair, plus marketing costs of like 150.
Say 150 million in marketing for each of them. So then we are talking a total negative cost of 1.6 billion in a total negative cost, including marketing. Right. That has to be made back in theaters and on streaming. Wow. Good luck with that, even if it's over 4 movies, because then, basically you're going to need like 4 Avengers movies to make that kind of money back again. If that was Avengers movie, that would be like one thing. But Avatar, it was the biggest movie of all time at the time when it came out, but it left 0 cultural footprint, and the 3D was a very, very big part of why it was so popular. In fact, I would say that was the most important reason.
3D now.
Isn't this?
Because it's been cheapened, and everyone else failed to do what Cameron did. Sorry, Paul.
I didn't like 3D anyway. I thought it was crap. I really like. My eyes don't get a lot. It gives me a headache. It legitimately gives me a headache. 3D stuff.
So, just to put my 2 cents into this, along with what everyone else has said. Doesn't this seem like just a Cameron just being kind of competitive and snarky with Marvel? He's just trying
Which is quite funny, actually, because they're owned by the same business now. So you'd think that he'd have a little bit more respect, wouldn't you?
I don't know that competitive is the word I would use. I'm thinking more something along the lines of condescending.
Yeah. Condescending is good because he backed a superhero type of film that had a strong parent called Alita, Battle Angel, and that got buried with Captain Marvel. So I'm wondering if there's like some residual resentment,
could be
condescending, because that's a superior film. I love Alita, and I
like Alita
Marvel,
too,
especially when you compare it to Captain Marvel. So. I know that's eating at him. That guy's he doesn't like being number 2. So I don't know. That's what I'm getting.
Nick, anything to add to that?
Well, just listening to the conversation and hearing his comments and stuff in this article, it's like, come on, man. You're talking about movies based off of picture books for kids. I mean, this isn't Tolkien. This isn't, something ultra serious or
highbrow, is it?
Yeah.
No, it in his head though, Nick.
Yeah. So it's like, can you really, try to make the distinction between what you're trying to do in stuff like what Marvel and DC is doing? I completely understand and agree with what Andre was saying as far as the point he's trying to get at, but it's like, this is comic book characters.
Yes, it's a valid point, but it doesn't work in the context of what you're discussing because it's comparing chalk and cheese at the end of the day. It just doesn't make any sense. Goodness me. Oh dear. Let's just quickly get to some super chats before we move on to the next topic, unless anyone has anything else to add to that.
I got nothing, or rather, I said everything I wanted to say.
There you go.
Me too.
Go. Also, ladies and gents, super chats are a really good way to support the channel, support these streams, help keep them going, and physically keep the lights on. So please do that if you want to support, as well as get your points across and join in the conversation. Tom Working sent $10 and says the origin of all these MCU movies were feckless, clunky dialogue in the Silver Age, too many retcons, etc. It's everything about how these films, an echo chamber of comic corporate origins, old model. Yeah, I mean that. Yeah. I think the retcon level things which happen time and time again, and we're seeing that now. The retcons are what distance people more and more from Marvel, and especially DC. They do their reset points in the comics closer together, so it'd be almost pointless reading a comic run. But the same thing with Marvel is that these consistent retcons and resets of the universe, because you can't just build linearly to, constantly bigger threats, because there has to be an end point. But I think those kind of things is actually what put people off a lot of comic books at the end of the day. The constant retconning rather than just dealing with isolated incidents, just one little thing that was happening. These massive events. And this is actually, funnily enough, I think one of the problems Marvel is currently having is that they built to a massive thing and then they didn't really know where else they were going to go. And that's why we got this weird phase 4, aka phase 4, and now it's going off into a bigger event, the Kang saga or whatever it's called,
Kang the multiverse saga featuring Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah, that's the one. Whereas if they
first seen in Loki,
if they focus on just individual stories, I think they'd have a better longevity with making these films. I don't know if any of you guys have anything to add to that, but again, I think the retcons, resets with essentially part of the death of comics, obviously other stuff as well, but it's also leading to people, phasing out from these movies a lot as well.
The only thing I wanted to add is I just think it's incredibly easy to make the Marvel films in general like your piñata. Scorsese's done it, Cameron's done it. It's like, everyone thinks they're so serious with their filmmaking. Guys, we're talking about superhero
low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, and also too, you could poke holes at the argument and say, it's all about relationships. A lot of those movies, whether they're parents or not, whether they're fully fleshed out or not, that's a whole nother argument. But they were, I mean, Captain America and Bucky, that's probably the biggest romance there is there. And there's a lot of it. Straight up family, whether you liked it or not, in its own twisted way, that's what Wanda is trying to do, is trying to be as a mother. I don't like where they're coming at it from, but so you can poke Cam. I think Cameron was just, I'm looking at you, Marvel. We're gonna kick some ass with Avatar. Yeah, I'm a Maverick. That's what I wanted to
add. Kate High sent £2. There's no parent stuff, but Batman had to sacrifice Rachel. True, but again, not aligned with the same point that James Cameron was making, but yes. Mexican Iron Man, nice to have you on, dude. Sent $19.99. Love this panel. 4 of my favorite and most awesome YouTubers. I think that's how we pronounce that, isn't it?
Man.
Nice to have you on, dude. And then I think we've got Horseradish Power for £5. Says, thank you all. Next month, I'll be writing superhero story stuff, and your talk on parenting gives me ideas about adopting family to protect and keep safe. Well, good. Always good to get some inspiration there. Thank you so much. Olaf Van S sent €5. Says, another great panel. Making some new friends here, watching YouTuber creators I engage with every week. Really love these Tuesdays and Thursday streams. Well, thank you so much. I always intended to bring these streams back, but I wanted to bring them back with a better format, a better bang. There will actually be something coming with all of this as well. So I've got some stuff in the works that you'll see soon, which I'm still working on behind the scenes. But yeah, thank you. I'm glad you guys are enjoying these streams. And thanks, obviously, to my great panel for joining me as well every Tuesday and Thursday. Links to all their channels are down below. So that actually takes us nicely on now to our next point, well, our next topic anyway, which is Henry Cavill. The man that should have been James Bond. I stand by it. I've said it. I don't care. All right. I said what I said. I meant what I said, and I stand by what I said.
I agree.
If you've not watched Man from U.N.C.L.E., that was absolutely his audition for James Bond. He was exceptionally good in Man from U.N.C.L.E. Suave, sophisticated, brutish when he needed it. It was a stellar performance and thoroughly good. And he just should have been James Bond. So before we get onto the actual topic, because he's revealing how close he came to playing James Bond, Andre, I know we've spoken about Man from U.N.C.L.E. before. What are your thoughts on Henry Cavill being James Bond?
I think that he would be amazing as Bond, and there are so many other things he could be amazing as well. Here's the thing, though. I'm kind of glad that he won't be Bond, because I don't think that this new iteration of Bond movies, certainly the way that they're spoken about right now, that they're going to update him even more, that they're going to make him more of a soy boy, with all of those things. I think that I'm really happy that Henry Cavill won't waste his talents on Bond.
Yeah, true. Well, yeah, they have said that they are going to be modernizing. He's going to evolve with the modern times. So yeah, he's going to be a bit of a bitch, basically.
Yeah, I agree with what Andre was just saying. As far as Henry Cavill himself, I mean, I've always thought since I saw Man of Steel that he should play James Bond. I think he would do the role justice, but it just goes back to the people involved with making the stories around James Bond now, and that's really where my concern would be. But as far as him playing the role, I think he would have killed it.
Yeah. Latino slant, Paulie.
Well, I feel as a Latino, I can't comment on this. Just like white people cannot.
Yeah, but that'd be cultural appropriation. Sorry.
Yes, so I'm gonna take the low road in a low rider, as they say. And I love Henry. I love Henry. I think what's unfortunate, and I think we're coming out of it, is his talents have had to suffer for all this, stupid overwoke, productions and reimaginings of things. And thank God he's going to come back and get another crack at Man of Steel, Superman. But it would have been amazing to have him as James Bond, but not the Craig Bond, and not what Andre's talking about. But OG. I'll even take Pierce Brosnan type of Bond, But yeah, those are my.
Well, he's not ruled it out entirely. He's actually revealed that he'd still be keen to play 007 down the line. But in this discussion with Josh Horowitz, he had an interview and he said, they told me I was close. They told me it was ultimately down to, and this is what I've been told, it was just down to me and Daniel Craig, and I was the younger option. They obviously went with Daniel, and I think it was an amazing choice to go with. So let's just analyze that first and foremost. One, if they'd actually went with Henry, they would have had him for longer. Because now they're talking about having a very young Bond, they've said. Someone that's not super, super old. So that seems counterintuitive. It's almost like they're learning from their mistakes. I know, weird. The Hollywood machine is evolving. It's become conscious and sentient. But what do you guys think of that? Being the younger option, and they gave it to Craig because he was the older one. Especially now, again, given the fact that they flip-flopped and said so much that they are looking for a younger Bond. Andre?
I'm really glad that they went with Craig, to be honest, because
I think he was a good Bond in bad movies.
That's what I mean. There were two, in my view, Casino Royale and Skyfall were really, really good. And everything else was utter rubbish.
Was Skyfall the one with Javier Bardem in it?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
Those are the two good ones, and everything else is rubbish. And if Henry Cavill had done that, he would kind of have been a little bit typecast as Bond. I think. I don't think that he would have gotten certain other things. Like he may not have gotten Superman. So I'm really, really happy that he didn't end up being Bond. And also, I would argue that at the time, in 2005, when this would have been, he was too young. He was too young to be Bond.
How old was he back then?
Well,
mid-20s, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, something like that. He would have been too young.
5, yeah.
Because the thing with Daniel Craig, he already had some life experience, far more than someone in his mid-20s would have had. So I think Craig, of the two in 2005, when the choice was made, of the two, he was the right choice. Fast forward 10 years, and Henry Cavill on paper would have been the right choice. But now we know they made the wrong movies more than they did not.
True.
So I'm really happy that he didn't get it, and I don't want him to see him be Bond. He got his Bond in that other spy movie, and I'm quite content with the Man from U.N.C.L.E. I mean, and I'm quite content with that. And now let's see him do other things. But Nick, I believe you were saying something.
Oh, I was just gonna say that that I agree with what you're saying, Andre. As far as looking back on it now, it would have been like, okay, he would have been the perfect Bond, and they could have kept him around a lot longer. But then, like you were saying, he would have been typecast, and who knows if he would have gotten very many other roles outside of that. A lot of his main focus would probably be on making just the Bond movies themselves. So for him, I'm not sure if he thinks or looks at it that way, but he's probably happy with where he's at regardless.
Also, I don't know that we would have gotten. Yeah, sorry, carry on, Paulie.
Really quickly, guys, like 350 people live in the chat, only like 100 and some odd likes. Smash it right now, because you guys are the only ones that can help this live stream get out, because YouTube does not help us. So you guys help us right now. Hit the like. It cannot tell you how important that is. Thanks a lot.
Indeed. And as I was saying, just even if he had been cast, he may have been younger, but that doesn't automatically mean that he would have been Bond for longer. Because the standard Bond contract is for, I believe, 4 movies with options after that. 3 or 4 movies plus options.
I think it's 4.
And by the time he got to his movie number 4, would they be able to afford him for movie number 5, 6, 7? And would he even want to do that? Or are they going to have to reboot Bond when he's still really, really young, just for purely contractual reasons? Again, I think that getting a too young Bond is a bad move just for that reason.
Well, interestingly, he sort of says something similar to that effect, anyway, about age and stuff. So he says, I probably wasn't ready at the time. I think Daniel did an incredible job over the past movies, so I'm happy they made that choice. It was a fun adventure at the time and definitely gave a boost to my career. That was the key element of it. I was getting a lot of auditions, which I went to, which went really, really well. And then he closes out with, whether I'm considered for the role or not, I don't know, but it would be fun to have the conversation for sure. If I'm not, then I just want to see what they do with it next, because I think Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson are amazing. I'm always impressed with how Henry handles himself in interviews. Very, very gracious, and almost sort of, politician-like. Just very down the line, very, very gracious, humble, knows exactly what to say. All of his interviews are always good. A professional through and through. But again, he comments on basically what everyone has said about the age and not being ready at the time. But considered in future, What do we think about him maybe being Bond in the future? Yay or nay?
Nay.
Yeah, I'm going nay at this point. Also,
my heart is yay, but my head is no.
Yeah, no, I would agree. He would make a really good Bond if the writers were not the writers that we have now, or the direction that they're going in now with James Bond. But I thought that would be interesting to sort of explore nonetheless. And you know what? He's doing really well in the other franchises that he's working in, isn't he? Let's be honest. You know, he's appeared in a lot of other things. Again, Man from U.N.C.L.E., did the Mission Impossible stuff. So he's been doing things which are, he's been able to sink his teeth into
the Witcher series.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, 100%. I was thinking more still sort of a suave agent dude, on screen, a bit like Bond. But yeah, no, I completely get where you're coming from. So just real quick, Chris Raposo sent a super chat of $5 Canadian. Says, glad to see these back. Here's some dollars for that mustache too for Paulie. I agree with Andre about Henry. I don't think there was any others actually. So,
thank you.
But as Paulie did say, please do hit that thumbs up button. It does go a long way to helping get these out there, because YouTube's rubbish. You could schedule these things days in advance and you still wouldn't know. YouTube really is poo at sending these things out. And also, just real quick, because we've got more people in here now, in the description box you'll find a link to Mr. H Reviews live archives. Please do check it out. It's a completely new channel where highlight clips, as well as the whole podcast, this stream, but highlight clips will be going out on each topic. So, if you're not here for the whole thing, but you just want to catch the highlights, check it out in the description box.
Nate, or the lowlights.
Oh, the what?
The high or the low lights.
Oh, right, yeah, the high, yeah. I guess turn all the lights off. Just put my Datsun light on in the background. I actually can't turn. This is a light, but I can't turn it on because it's as bright as the sun. So you literally wouldn't be able to see anything if I turn this light on. It's really disappointing.
That's too bad.
Are you talking about the Datsun light?
Yeah, that's a light, but I can't actually put it on. I can't put it on when I'm on camera because it's so bright. You can't see the sign. It's just it's a shame. And maybe I could, but I'd mess around with the exposure. But then you probably wouldn't be able to see me. So I don't know. Shame. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. So, Paulie, sorry.
No, just gonna keep going on with the James Bond, but we can move on.
Okay. Well, from one Henry Cavill story to another, obviously Henry Cavill is coming back as Superman. That's confirmed, 100% confirmed. And now he's done basically his first interview post announcement. And again, it's just that it's interesting stuff. It's kind of humble. It's kind of what we expect him to do, really. But he says that Superman, so it's basically teasing the version of Superman we're going to have, completely different. So apparently this Superman will be enormously joyful when he returns. And he says, obviously, I never gave up hope and there's a bright future ahead, which kind of goes hand in hand with what he'd already said before. But I guess, this is interesting anyway for a few things, because where did we last see him? We last saw him, obviously, Justice League. Is that, Justice League, because that's post Black Adam, I think. I don't know where Black Adam sits in the timeline on this universe. Does anyone know where
Black Adam would I guess would be the most recent, the most newest of all, because there's been no past references to Black Adam. So I can only imagine that this is the most current thing. So the last thing that we saw him, both chronologically and like on screen filmed, would be in Black Adam. Prior to that, it would have been the reshoots for Joss Whedon's Justice League, which then takes us back to 2017. Yeah, 2017 is the last time he would actually have been in costume with a mustache and everything that they had to remove in CGI in post.
That was the
because
worst
they actually
thing.
filmed the movie in 2016.
Oh, so funny. Well, anyway, this is going to obviously postal Justice League then, I guess. But you know, he's come out and says, the character means so much to me. This is on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. Sorry. He says, the character means so much to me. It's been 5 years now. I never gave up hope. It's amazing to be here now talking about it again. There is such a bright future ahead for the character. I'm so excited to tell a story. This is a key point here, with an enormously joyful Superman. Now, I don't want to sort of view that as a dunk on Snyder, but it is. I mean, it is polar opposite to the Snyder Superman, isn't it? He's very specifically saying, "I'm so excited to tell a story with an enormously joyful Superman," and I guess maybe for him, it's not a dunk on Snyder, but he's looking forward to a different version of the same character and being able to flex his acting chops within that role. I don't know if any of you guys have any opinions on that.
Well, to me, it sounds like he's very clear on what he's saying. I don't think it's like a deliberate dunk on Snyder so much as it is, I know that people were not happy with my Superman being too dark. When Superman is supposed to be bright and cheerful, David Zaslav will no doubt have told him this, because Zaslav is a fan of Superman. And he has made it clear we need to get Superman right. And getting Superman right means going back to the character's roots. That means there has to be some level of joy to it. So I'm pretty sure that he will have been instructed to subtly drop words like that in there. That this is no longer going to be dark and dreary and an angsty Superman who just wants to die.
And I think it also goes hand in hand with what we were hearing about. Was that 2 years ago now? I think it was 2 years ago. But basically, Henry Cavill was refusing to come back unless he had some creative say on the direction of Superman, and where he was going to go, because he obviously realized that it was just basically they're just throwing the character down the toilet.
Well, I don't know that that's actually. I think that may have been overblown, because the real story is that they didn't want him.
I know, yeah, persona non grata. I know, I couldn't believe that. We spoke about that.
Well, we've been reporting it for years.
I think. Yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
I was wondering if someone in the chat can help me out, because I thought I saw a tweet from Zack Snyder saying, congratulations, Henry. Hope to work. Can't wait to work with you soon.
Yeah.
No, I don't think
can't wait to work with you again. Yes, this is a real tweet, and many people have read into it that means that he'll be doing a DC project. I don't think that this is true. Just because Henry Cavill is back as Superman doesn't mean that he can only work as Superman. Zack Snyder has an exclusive deal with Netflix. So I think that referred to that Henry Cavill is probably going to be in one of Snyder's Netflix projects.
So, Andre, this wasn't a dream.
No, it wasn't a dream. It did happen.
But here
are like a fever dream, Paulie.
Or the nightmare. Or here's the thing. It's not on Snyder's Twitter anymore.
Just look for someone else to talk about it. Just look for Snyderverse. You're gonna find someone.
Okay, maybe it's that. Maybe it was that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he talks here about what it meant to him for sort of getting back in the suit again as well. He says, I went to Warner Brothers studio in the UK and got back in the suit. It was a very powerful moment for me. I wasn't sure how I would feel, whether it would be something very emotionally connective, because I put the Man of Steel suit back on. I chose that one in particular because of the nostalgia attached to the suit. It was important for me to be standing there and enjoying that moment. That is one of the top moments in my career. It feels great to have the opportunity to wear it again. Again, it's that sort of humble nature, the very sort of graciousness.
I would just like to point out before you move on, he may claim that, I chose that. No, mate, you did not choose that suit. That suit was chosen for you. It was chosen for you, and it was built for you right now, and you did not get the pick, no matter what you may try to tell people in the media.
Well, I would say ordinarily that's true, but you don't know under what pretenses he's been allowed to come back. He may have executive producer credit on these Superman movies. He may have creative control to a certain degree.
Yeah, it could be, but I do believe that Zaslow would give him the options. Like, okay, here we have 3 almost identical versions of the suit that look quite a lot like the Man of Steel suit, so much so that anyone looking at first glance is going to be confused either way or couldn't be able to tell. So you get to choose anyone you want out of these 3 possibilities that all look pretty much the same and like the Man of Steel suit. Yeah, I can absolutely believe that that he would have that he got to choose within those parameters, but that he had the option of the black Snyder suit or the much more overexposed Joss Whedon suit. No way. Even if he has executive producer credit, that's above his pay grade. He can choose within certain parameters, but those parameters are above him.
Yeah. We seem to have lost Paulie, by the way, ladies and gents. I'm sure he'll come back. He was on an iPad, so I think that's probably why. Just as an FYI, everyone's probably a bit like, "Huh, what's going on? Where's Paulie?" So just thought I'd address that.
Real quick, I'm curious how they're going to show or explain his character involvement or his change in character as this other Superman. Is it going to be from the death of him and him coming back and him having a more lighter outlook on life, or
I think I can make a fairly educated guess. They're not going to address it other than in the most casual of vague terms, because what we have understood that they're doing with that Zaslow is doing, and make no mistake about it, James Gunn, he's executing the will of David Zaslow and putting his own spin on it along the way, but it's Zaslow's shot here. And Zaslow is the shot caller, just to make that clear. So what they're going to do is treat everything that happened before like this is Tom would say the same thing if he was here, which he will be soon. It's basically that everything that happened before, but it's no longer addressed. Exactly the same thing that happened after the Snyder period, after his movies. Everything that happened in them kind of happened, but we're just not talking about it. And it's the exact same thing right now. This is going to be a fresh start with the same cast, and it'll be implied that everything happened before, but it won't be dwelled upon. So he's probably going to get a new personality without addressing that he died, or might be like a one sentence here or there or something, but it's going to be a new direction. It might as well have been like a complete reboot. It just vaguely is in the same continuity with the same cast.
So more like a soft reboot in the same universe.
Yeah, soft reboot in the same universe. That's exactly right.
Yeah, that makes sense. We got Paulie back now, I assume.
Butterfingers.
I thought the iPad battery.
Oh, did you hit the wrong button?
Yeah, I sure did.
Butterfingers get worse on iPads.
It's so bad on that. Yeah, exactly. Sorry about that.
So we're going to talk about Black Panther 2 first reactions, but first I want to get to a very bold claim that white people shouldn't be seeing the Black Panther sequel, because this dumb takes are always funny to laugh at. And actually, we've got Tom here for this hilariously dumb take as well.
What's up, Tom?
Hey, Tom.
Hello.
So yeah, I thought we would take a look at this, because this always happens. This happened last year. Not last year, when Black Panther first one came out, people were sort of rallied at if you didn't like it, you're a racist and all this kind of nonsense.
Oh, did you see my tweet?
What's on the tweet then?
Go ahead and read yours part here. I'll send.
Oh, right. Well, basically, this is a TikToker that says you're basically anti-black if you go and watch Wakanda Forever opening weekend. So this is a TikTok video. Let's have this together because this is going to be pure gold, I'm sure.
You have to turn on the audio.
Yep, no sound.
Oh no!
Oh yeah. We're not getting any sound.
Oh, you're not getting any sound. Oh no!
Share.
Let me have a look. It should have shared.
Sound.
It should actually have it. Oh, you are right. Yeah, sorry, that's me being dumbass. Let's do it again.
Take two. We'll do it live.
Hear it?
No.
Nope. No audio.
Oh, no. God damn it.
Well, while we work on that, I can give some spoilers. Because basically, what this lady is saying is that this movie is for black people, and any white people that wants to go see it, you shouldn't go see it. Certainly not in the opening weekend or the first week, because white people in the cinema will make black people feel unsafe. They can be threatened by the presence of white people. So what she says then is, for white people, if you really are allies, if you have BLM and stuff like that in your Twitter handle, right alongside your Ukraine flag, then what you should do if you want to see the movie is you buy tickets. You buy the tickets, but then you give them to black people who can't afford tickets. And then you go to the cinema and you stand watch by the door so that you will block any white people from going into the cinema to make black people feel unsafe, because black people will be harmed if they see a white person in the cinema screening with them. This is their movie. So white people, if you want to see the movie, that's fine, but you have to wait until like the second or third week. Then you can go and sit in the back of the bus. That's the gist of what she's saying. And if you go see it before then you did a racism. And then that's against black people.
I love it when you say that. It's very funny. I think I've got it to work now. So let's
see. Let's see if you all agree with my retelling. If you thought that I was exaggerating,
I think yours is going to be more eloquent. I'm going to say that now.
Yeah. Is there sound?
Okay, I can hear it now.
This message is to all our would-be accomplices and white allies. This message is to all the white people who have.
Yeah, now it's working fine.
It froze.
Yep, but it just paused.
I think Mr. H froze as well.
Mr. H froze, yeah. Oh, there we go.
If you really want to prove to black people that you love us and you care about us and you are down for the cause, do not go see that movie opening weekend. You buy your ticket, you give it to a black person or a black family who can't afford to go. And then you go sit at that theater in front of the doors. You make sure that every black person in that theater can enjoy that movie in peace. You make sure that you use your body to block us from anybody who would be coming in that theater to do us harm. That is your job. You can go see it on another weekend. Go see it on the second or third weekend. But the first weekend, that's for us. To do anything other than this is anti-black.
I'm curious. I'm curious. What does she feel about Latinos going to see the movie opening weekend? Are they allowed to go?
Or mixed people? Do they count?
I've got the answer to that.
Oh, you do share.
The answer. Only if you identify as Latinx. All right. If you identify as Latinx, you are a proxy black person. That's if you're Latinx, you are a person of color by proxy. But if you don't and you identify as a Latina or a Latino, you're not black or person of color in their eyes. I bet you.
I wasn't going to go see the movie.
Mindset.
I wasn't going to go see the movie any weekend. So does that make me anti-black because I'm not going to go see it any weekend?
Well, it makes you not an accomplice, which is what she said. Which I think is like that's like some that is some Freudian slip right there. That she would tell everyone that was basically down with her cause, refer to them as accomplices, which is something that you generally only use for partners in crime, quite literally.
It's not a good look, is it? Accomplice.
Yeah.
That is your job, apparently. It's our job to...
and you have to prove...
Who's doing harm to these people?
Yeah.
What are they on about?
You have to prove that you're down with the cause, because the suspicion is on you, white boy.
Well, really
fast, cult to me.
Before we get to Tom's tweet, I do want to answer that. Yes, Andre, Latinos can buy a ticket. They can sit in the theater. But here's the thing.
Wow.
When Namor is not on screen, they have to watch the movie like this.
Oh dear. And Tom, do you want to read your tweet out here?
I think I came up with a good solution. It's funny that you brought this up because I was reminded of this Instagram post because it was a few months ago. This chick made this.
Yeah,
and I just knowing that the movie
referenced your tweet earlier in the show, Tom.
Oh, funny. That's awesome. Because I'm like, all right, I remember that. So I'm like, remember, white people, we're not supposed to see Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but buy tickets. So remember, next week, get tickets for Black Adam instead. There you go.
Well, look, you see in a film with black in the title, so it's fine. It's the same.
That's right. I'm still supporting.
I'm down for the cause. I'm down. I'm going to see Black Adam.
I support Tom's tweet here. I think it should be widely shared, and people need to take this recommendation to heart.
Jesus.
And so we have a black. I just have to signal boost this. Black Superwoman says in the chat, I bet she's dating or married to a white guy. Actually,
like Jordan Peele and his white wife, you mean?
Not just that, because you have like a number of these female black supremacists. Many of them are or have been in very long-term relationships with white men. For some reason or the other. Maybe that's what made them black supremacists. I don't know.
Wasn't Black Panther created by a white man?
A white Jew, to be clear.
A white Jew. Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Dear, oh dear. Well, I thought that would be a very funny sort of way to segue off. Sorry for... Apparently, I sort of froze a little bit. Sorry about that. And sorry.
You did. But it's all good. It wasn't too long.
Functions. But I thought that'd be a good segue off into the first reactions. Now, all of these, I just say it, you can take with a massive pinch of salt, because Disney will only let people have access to their shows, screeners, or premieres if they meet very strict adherence guidelines. They have to speak. This is all completely true. You can't reveal leaks about anything. So you can't talk about any leaks that might be circulating. You have to do good reviews. They're very, very specific. So all of these people given access, take it with a pinch of salt, because they are unequivocally singing a tune that Disney is hymning. I'm sure Andre and Tom will probably back me up on that statement.
Yeah. Tom, why don't you give your take on the reliability of these early reactions? Right, chime in.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen this major shift in the access side of things, and yeah, all these. Did you not notice that? Every early review for Eternals was a triumph. Every early review for Shang-Chi, it was a triumph. I'm sure this is going to be a triumph for the Black community. Like, we already know what they kind of pre-feed the buzzwords to these guys, it feels like. And again, we notice even with like Rotten Tomatoes scores, you'll see two different critics give basically the same review. One will be a negative review and the other one will be like 4 stars. It's like, in what world does this equate? And I think a lot of it is this fear of losing access. And, we've even seen people like Christian Harloff, John Camp be a bitch about it. And I think because those guys are a little bit on the outside ring of the big boys, they do get pushed to the side from time to time. And they're just giving us a look inside what it's really like over there. And to me, it's just ridiculous because 30 years ago, it used to be the opposite. The Hollywood system and studios were worried about the media, not the other way around. Like you would just pray you would get a good review. You didn't get to push and access, promise access for it and give goodie bags out for it. You didn't get a lot of that crap until more recent years, like last 20 years or so, 15 maybe at the most. But yeah, no, I'm curious what you guys feel about this because I'm not surprised. This is all par for the course, if you ask me.
Yeah, before Tom even started.
Yeah, carry on, Nick.
Oh, I was just going to say, before Tom even started on his thoughts on this, I was literally thinking, are we going to see it say, like, this film is a triumph and a fiercely Black cultural superhero film, like those are the kind of reviews I'm expecting from this, which I put pretty much zero. What's the word I'm looking for?
Faith.
Yeah, zero faith into these critic reviews. I pretty much just got take the audience scores and what a lot of other people that I trust their opinions on have to say about it and kind of go by that. But I'm guessing it's going to be great reviews from all the critics on this. Because if they trash the film, then they would be scared they'd be called racist, and they can't have that.
Well, they've actually got more than just the race card that they're going to play on now. So this whole film, and I think this is incredibly distasteful. I think the film is distasteful. I think everyone's comments about it is distasteful. I think the trailer was incredibly distasteful. And the actors' interviews were incredibly distasteful. It's all about Chadwick Boseman, the character T'Challa and being dead. And, Coogler, is it Coogler? Letitia Wright. It's an incredible honor for Chadwick. It's an incredible honor for Chadwick Boseman. It's jam-packed with exciting stuff. We honored him by committing ourselves to the story that he started, the legacy that he started with this franchise. He was really pretty sick of doing the whole Wakanda forever. By the end of it, there are interviews with him saying how sick and tired he was of it. I don't think he'd want to be remembered for this. I don't think this is his crowning achievement. And even if it was, we don't know that. He's never said it. I think it's distasteful to assume what a dead man's legacy he wanted his legacy to be. And the thing is, like, I just think it's distasteful, having his face scrawled up on walls and stuff. And I don't know. I think it's profiteering off of someone's death. And if they don't pay the family incredibly high sums of money for using his image, Marvel can literally suck it.
I'm sure they did.
It's this. But it's still, I don't like it at the end of the day. I think
they may have, but also you got to remember, a lot of these guys are basically required to sign away their likeness rights when they sign on. Because remember, we just heard recently about all the Star Wars people signing off their likeness rights, even though they already did to George Lucas. They must have signed off their lifetime likeness rights to Disney, I'm assuming, is what it is.
Evidently, yes, it seems like it. I will say, though, on the matter of legacy, you don't get to choose your own legacy. And in this particular case, I'm obviously not Black myself, but I think that.
What do you mean?
But
you're not
Black. I've been living a lie.
But I do get the impression that the first.
Does your wife know?
Yeah, I think she might have noticed. But but my point though was that the first Black Panther movie was a really significant event and bonding experience for a lot of Black people, which I respect and understand. And just for that would be his legacy. If he would have wanted it or not, I don't know, and honestly, I don't think it matters, because at some point when something becomes a cultural event like that movie did, it takes on a life of its own, and then that's going to be his legacy, no matter what you feel about it. Now, are they profiteering? You can argue that, but they own the Black Panther IP. I don't think that they are. The only question is, what are they going to do with it, and how are they going to adapt it? Will they do the kind of thing that's going to repeat the experience that the previous one was, or is this something completely different? And in terms of the early reviews, you all remember Green Lantern, right? We all mentioned that in the same breath as Iron Man and the Dark Knight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is right up there with Avatar,
Daily.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but according to the early reviews, that was the case. It was the next The Dark Knight. It was all Avatar all over again. It had the best 3D effects since Avatar. Everyone had to go see it. It was an instant classic. That's what the early reviews were saying. And of course, then the movie opened in general release, and it was trashed to high heavens, and it was exposed for the piece of crap it was. But you would never know that based on these early reviews. In terms of like early and highly select reactions like this, I have learned one thing. I trust only the negative and no one else. And if the negative really aren't that negative at all, then probably chances are it's going to be a fairly good movie, because then you can read into the negative reviews. Okay, here are the problems, because everyone hyping this as the best thing since sliced bread. Well, so was Green Lantern.
That's a good point.
Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, I was just saying that's a good point Andre was making.
Yeah, so to go off with that, what Andre and Tom said, I agree. I've only seen, and I've read a whole bunch, since this morning, as far as all these glowing first reactions. As far as two reviews being cautious and having doubt, one being very conflicted about T'Challa not even being recasted. So there's one of those out, right? The other one was talking about how dark and serious that the film got. But everything else is kind of like an overriding of positive glowing reviews. It's not even a triumph. It's redundantly triumph within one sentence.
It's going to change the world. I saw someone say it's going to change
right, and it's
going to cure cancer too.
It's going to be January 6th in reverse. You watch.
That's what I'm thinking, because someone said it was basically everyone revolting for a better world. And I'm like, well, who are they revolting against?
Yeah.
Who and what?
The alt-right fascists.
Yeah. So, that's why I think it's important that, pay attention to those reviewers that either are honest with how they are getting the screeners, or if they, go and pay for the ticket, because right now you also gotta take it with like I said, the grain of salt. All these guys were just, they were probably at the premiere, and everyone's so emotional and all this stuff. It's just like, who's not going to enjoy themselves?
Yeah.
But there's so many problems with the way this is being promoted. I'm going to wait until I see it, and I'm going to write my essay out on it, because, this is not the type of representation that I am excited about at all. There's so many problems to this. So I'm just gonna wait and see it and take it from there.
Does anybody know, are they, with the Chadwick Boseman situation, are they doing this sort of like Black Widow, where this takes place like during the snap?
No, he dies. He's dead.
Like when the movie
takes place
in the movie. Yeah.
That's
I'm talking
what
about when the movie takes place.
Like, I had speculated something like that a while back, and I had talked to somebody, and they said that's kind of basically what goes down. Is that, from what I heard, there's just one little quick cameo of his face done in CGI or whatever, just so we know he's in the costume. And then there's an opening battle scene. He dies or whatever. Then they have the funeral. And then from there, it's them, trying to move on without him. And there's clearly some kind of conspiracy going on in the background and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what I'm gathering. But from what I heard, there's at least one shot of him CGI. So I have a feeling that that's what it's going to be.
So it actually takes place after Endgame then?
Yeah, as far as I can tell. That's the thing. They've pushed the Marvel Universe now to where it's in the modern day. Especially if you look at Ant-Man. Clearly with his daughter the age she is, yeah.
Yeah, because basically you have to remember the MCU movies that we get right now, they take place in approximately 2025. And they did that specifically to get caught up with the real world. That's why.
What was it? Spider-Man, the second one, they jumped ahead. Yeah.
So there was the 5-year time jump, and that way they got a few years ahead of the real world. Because the problem with the MCU was that the real world was in 2017, while the MCU was stuck in 2011. So they had to do something to get caught up and overtake, give themselves a few years.
Yeah,
that's why they jumped 5 years ahead.
Because what was it? When did when did the Avengers come out? 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that was still taking place in 2009 or whatever.
Yeah.
So they've been 3 or 4 years behind for years. So then they did a major jump, and it really fucked with the timeline. That's where they messed a lot of things up. Because they forgot about this, that, and the other. And so you're you just jumped 5 years. You realize the things that you just kind of bypassed. And then when they come back, it's like they just kind of forgot about it in some cases. It's oh shit, yeah, we're 5 years ahead. But yeah, it's just so they can get up to the modern day. And like Andre said, a little bit ahead. So when these movies come out, we're basically, as far as I know, all the movies coming out now, we're all in the modern day. The only one that was previous would have been Black Widow.
Yeah. That was Blast of the Past in 2015 or 14 or something.
I think it was 17 would take place, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall. Something like that.
They have those songs in the beginning. There's that the Sia song in the beginning to kind of let you know what year it is. I think it's 2016 or 17.
Yeah, something like that.
Was there? I cannot remember that film at all.
Yeah, yeah. And I actually liked the first half of it.
Yeah, no, me too. But yeah, so that's kind of the point. So all of the Phase 4, all of that rival, all of it takes place within a few months of 2025. With the exception of Loki, that takes place outside of the time stream.
Yeah.
But it was kicked off in 2009 in the alternate universe by Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, we got to remember how much they bounced around there too.
Yeah.
God, they make it so confusing.
Because
doesn't the end of Endgame's... Well, that's Thanos is from the past. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah. So because remember, the first Avengers movie, while it was released in 2012, it took place in 2009 or thereabouts. So that's when the multiverse was formed, kind of.
And because since the Thanos...
Loki went out the time stream.
And since the Thanos from that timeline came through, then he doesn't exist in that timeline. So Endgame and Infinity War, I guess, is never going to happen.
Not in that universe that he that he was plucked from, because that then becomes a separate parallel timeline of its own. Oh. So in that timeline, there's not going to be any snap or anything like that, because Thanos is just gone from it.
Goodness me. So all of that sort of prefaced, I guess, with the discussion on access media and things. We'll get to these comments because they are basically all the same. They are essentially all the same.
Oh, yeah.
So Black Panther Wakanda Forever is a beautiful tribute to Chadwick Boseman. This is if you don't like the film, you hate Chadwick Boseman, basically. That's what they're going to do.
I'm surprised that this reviewer doesn't have his bios in the description there. I mean, he could... This is someone that didn't just put the Ukrainian flag, but he spelled it out. Stand with Ukraine. I mean, I think that's very problematic.
He doesn't know how to spell it
there instead. No, you're right. He, him is difficult unless he's a they.
Do you know how to spell it, Tom?
Used to spell
it. Ukraine.
Oh yeah, U-C.
Yes.
I was referring to like the whole stand with, because most people just have the flag, which is now has become the international symbol of shit take about to follow.
Yeah, basically. So he says, visual stunner with Angela Bassett commanding every scene she inhabits. And they're making a big song and dance about Rihanna's songs. If your movie, ladies and gents, is sold off the back of someone's song, it's not really a good movie. It's not shaping up to be a good movie, because they were really hammering home Rihanna's songs. They're like, Rihanna's got 2 songs in this movie. It's like, okay.
And those songs were expensive to make, so they're going to need loads of hype and build up. Remember, this isn't just these tweets right here. This is part of the movie's marketing campaign, and so is the song.
Yeah.
So that's also part of the song's marketing campaign. Now, wait for it to come out and be a pretty boring piece of crap outside the context of the movie.
Well, yeah, so Rihanna's Lift Me Up will do that for many. Another great post-credit scene that's genuinely a jaw-dropper. Don't know about Oscars. What a bunch of waffle. Vapid waffle. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever is Marvel's most poignant and powerful film to date. Well, just like the last one. It's heavy and dark in the way that it needed to be, and mostly abandons the studio's trademark tone.
Ooh.
I'll get to that in a minute. The craft work levels up in every conceivable way, and the performances rise to the occasion. Do you think that maybe these, if there's another one about that, the trademark tone or abandoning Marvel's standard, do you think maybe Marvel's become so self-aware of that they've told the reviewers to make sure that the reviewers comment on the fact that they're not doing their standard Marvel style? I bet you that, because they were self-aware of that in She-Hulk, remember? So it makes
I'm
sense.
sure there's a cheat sheet they got walking into the theater that had some of that language on there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wakanda Forever is bigger in scope and scale than Black Panther, but its story is also one of Marvel's most intimate and heartfelt. It's definitely a comic book movie. What?
I'm sorry.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Intimate and heartfelt. Scope and scale.
It's definitely a comic book movie. No.
Yeah.
I thought it was a sci-fi flick.
It was a movie that was projected for 2 hours.
It was a motion picture.
It was a motion picture, says the New York Times.
Wakanda Forever.
There were moving images, says Time Magazine.
Oh, Jesus. Wakanda Forever is outstanding. It handles loss, grief, and revenge with a maturity and seriousness rarely seen in the MCU. Again, it's about that tone. They're doing that tone thing.
Well,
Black Panther continues.
Revenge is so mature.
Yeah, Black Panther continues to be their crown jewel. Letitia Wright, Angela Bassett, and Tenoch Huerta all bring some of the best acting I've seen all year. All year? That's some of the best acting you've seen all year. You're a movie reviewer.
This is the end of the year, too.
All year? Are you high? You on crack or something? Perry Nemiroff says Wakanda Forever is excellent.
Of course she does.
An immensely powerful story of forging forward, shattering at times, but also beautifully cathartic and heartening. Cannot get over how well the film earns that title.
She's one of the worst. Whatever she says, I take the opposite of what Perry Nemiroff says.
Yeah, again, I don't mean to diss anyone, but if there ever was a pure pro-establishment will do as you're told and walk in lockstep. Remember when the Collider had like that purge, when anyone with like a real voice and independence and with an audience, they were all given the boot. She's still there.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Underneath, we got Frosty from Collider as well.
I know, I'm going to get to that. So the moment you said Collider, I was like, oh, we got Frosty. Anyway, Danny Fernando says, no spoilers. Wakanda Forever had so many emotions. Good. It was creepy and brutal in parts, heartbreaking and beautiful. And the fight scenes were wild. I'm in awe of the care put into representing these cultures. What, the make-believe cultures? The fucking make-believe cultures? The fictional cultures?
Oh, Lord.
That's all it takes now. Paulie, do you feel represented by Atlantis?
Yes, in my fantasy.
Well, this is aimed at you. This is apparently your culture, mate.
Represent.
Just fucking ridiculous.
Well, if I may, Paul, Paulie, you probably feel much the same way that I do about Marvel's Thor movies. That is that there is, but I'm being completely serious about it. I recognize it. I recognize what they're doing. I recognize that this is the Marvel take on my cultural heritage. Now, does that mean that I see myself on screen and I feel represented and empowered? God, no. But I see what they're doing, and I do think it's fun, and I do kind of like to spot what they got right, what they got wrong, and how they chose to adapt it. And I take some joy in it, and it makes me extra proud of my cultural heritage. That's what the Thor movies do to me, and I would imagine that
the only difference is that the only difference is that Thor was a Viking, god or whatever, and then this is the comic book iteration. Namor was not that, and they are changing his background, and they've changed everything to a fabled Mesoamerican, which I've been calling it messy American. It's not Mesoamerican. It's a hodgepodge. It's like, who did the research? Why don't you just call it one of the real kingdoms or the real, call it an Aztec, what's with this made up, banana stuff, I just, sorry guys.
What they're trying to do,
they could have called it the Olmecs. I mean, that would have been, to me, that would have been brilliant. That that these are the Olmecs. These are the seed culture for everything that we're to follow.
Yeah, me and Andre have talked about this, Mr. H. It's like, the Olmecs and Toltecs, they got some cool ass lore that's connected to the sea.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you for instance, what they're purposely doing. Yeah. I can tell you.
Like you all heard about like the Mayan calendar, right? The Mayans are the ones who's attributed with it, but in reality, it's the Olmec calendar, because that's who the Mayans inherited it from.
Well, and so here's what's going on, right? You talk about the cultures, all that stuff, is what's in the actual film, and then how they're marketing, and then how they're taking us across Latin America. I don't like it. And
what? It's not for you, Paulie. It's not for you. What this is for is everyone. This is trying to create a new culture for everyone that identifies as Latinx. Don't you understand? This is the new cultural backbone.
Oh my God, I hadn't thought about it, but you're right, of course.
I know.
You are right, of course.
It's like they've never had a Latino in film before. They've never had a mural done about a Latino hero before. It's like, this is the first time. Namor in Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, but
what is going on here?
They literally said that. They literally said that in Shang-Chi, when you had like that idiot, I forgot the name of the star, Shang-Chi himself. He was like saying like, when I was a kid growing up, there were some Asian action heroes. I wish there were like some
Jackie
martial arts movies with Asian.
Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Well, listen,
Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, two of the biggest stars of all time.
No, it never happened. They don't exist.
Are you kidding? He would have been young enough to where Jet Li would have been around by the time he was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not allowed to love Bruce Lee anymore.
Well, he doesn't exist. I don't know what you're talking about.
Let's continue with these dumbass takes. So, Stephen Weintraub, Frosty of Collider, the notorious shill. I know you don't believe when people come out of a world premiere. Yeah, you're right, they don't. and say a movie is awesome, but Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is a fantastic sequel and a great movie. I knew it'd be emotional, and it was. Expect your eyes to leak. Great job, Ryan Coogler.
Is that the equivalent? Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, is that the equivalent of I'm telling the truth, believe me, you gotta believe me, swear to God.
Yeah, this time I'm telling you the truth.
A reinforcement,
The last times, you know, it is what it is, but this time I'm being honest.
This time, definitely.
Andre, you were saying you met him before?
Yeah, I met Steve Weintraub once.
Oh God!
Well, that was long before I had Midnight Edge was a thing, so I don't really have anything to say, because he was at the London Film and Comic Con. I happened to be there too, and I recognized him because I was a regular reader of Collider at the time, so I had like a brief conversation with him. So yeah.
Oh, the chat is hilarious. I love the chat.
Chat is always awesome.
This movie had sound. 10 stars.
This movie features Latinos for the first time with the X. I was gonna say something, Tom.
It's funny you brought up the Latinx thing. I literally saw Latin people in Texas on a political stage last night on TV, trashing this whole Latinx thing, and I was like, "Oh, the Paula and them were just talking about that last week."
Well, because it's all connected to political and social agenda. Yeah. And I want nothing to do with when I'm watching, I don't know, Thor, when I'm watching, I don't know, Superman. Anyways.
Yeah, they bang on about bloody Rihanna's song again. It's just all nonsense, really.
You know what I find is hilarious about this whole thing, guys? Is that this premiere happened last night, right?
Yes.
None of the headlines are about Black Panther right now. They're all about Kevin Feige's reaction to James Gunn. I don't know if you guys talked about this already. Since
we have not.
That is the number one headline on every major Hollywood outlet right now.
Yeah, Tom put the Twitter link in the private chat.
Yeah, that's the one that I quoted last night. But like, I just looking now, like every one of them, that top story is Kevin Feige supports James Gunn.
Get through some super chats real quick first, because we had to drop on. Tom Working sent $5, says, well, I'm Asian, how does that work? I go, pay for a ticket, but gang out in the lobby. Yeah, I don't know. You're not an honorary member.
Haven't you heard? You're white now. You're too succccessful.
Yeah, you're too privileged.
You gotta do what we do.
Yeah, you're too successful and you're too privileged because of white supremacy. So you are now passing as white, and you will get to the front doors, and you will block other white people from entering, so that the black TikTokers in there can feel safe, that the white people aren't going to do something nasty to them.
Yeah, it's not their fault that you're good at math. See, that's your own fault.
Well, you see this panel right here? I'm feeling really oppressed and offended.
in your little square.
Should.
Nikki sent $5 and says, and then only Latinos can go and see it the second week because of Namor. The third week is your chance. Yeah, that's right.
That's what the TikToker said. Like, white people, you wait until the third week.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's on TikTok. It must be true.
Yeah.
Casey says, Woman King said those who didn't see it were racist. Yeah, it's the playbook that we're getting now from these idiots. They're trying to guilt trip people into seeing their films these days. Accident Seller sent 50 Norwegian kroner, says, not the way to make movies. James Cameron says about Marvel, you need to have a scene where a young John Connor gets shotgun blasted in the chest. Yeah. Apparently he approved that. He loved that. He was all about that. He thought it was the best thing ever.
Well, let's be fair though. This is one thing I picked up on with James Cameron. I found the quote where he admitted that he doesn't care about the Terminator franchise anymore.
That was in the Sydney Morning Herald. I remember that.
Yeah, but I remember this other quote of him, because this was from the time of Terminator Sega Genesis, when that came out. Then he said, like a few months after that movie came out, like, "Oh yeah, that was a piece of shit. I hated it. I hated all of them." Here's the thing,
doing
though.
It I have to help Arnold.
Exactly. It's Arnold and his other friends. If they want to make a quick buck on this movie, then of course I'm going to be out there in the media, and as a favor to my friends, I'm going to lie and say that this movie is good, even though it's a complete piece of shit. I'll do it again. He was very obvious about it. And then a few months later, when he got the Terminator rights back, and he sold them right back again, or leased them right back again to the same production crew of Sega Genesis. And then he was back to, oh yeah, no, this one gets it. And I completely agree with everything they're doing. What they did, what you said? Oh, well, I agree with that then. That's kind of like how it went down.
Well, so the funny thing is about Terminator Dark Fate is he actually had story say on that. So part of that was actually his story as well. Yeah. I'd have to look into it 100% again. So don't quote me completely. But
I don't know exactly.
I did so much coverage of this at the time, and I had
you did.
I had leaks and everything.
I knocked it out of the park.
To be honest, all I know that he really had anything to do with was getting Linda Hamilton back. That's what I had heard. That was his main contribution.
Well, I think, I think it was a combination of a few things. I think he had story input and like a final say on it. I think it was either final say. I think it was final say. So he basically approved it. But basically he was in part to blame for that. He signed off on it all. He was happy with it. I remember the coverage at the time was funny because I got blasted all over Reddit. People hated my guts. Because I was like, well, look, if this happens, which has been leaked to me, then this film sounds total crap. First fucking opening 5 minutes, it happens. I'm like, yeah, it's garbage. Be completely vindicated again, as always.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Sometimes one just hates being right.
Well, yeah, for stuff like that, I do.
That's what I love when people come at us and like, you're just a fucking hater. It's like, you do realize we're just passing along the news. That reminded me when we did our Cobra Kai video, where we pointed out where they still, to this day, have not called for a season 6 of Cobra Kai, kids. Keep that in mind. As we pointed out, no, they haven't.
Didn't they get renewed?
Nope.
5, 6 last year?
Nope. They still have not renewed for season 6 yet.
Wasn't season
They're sitting there waiting.
It's just going to be a movie,
4 terrible? Wasn't season 4 terrible?
Oh, Paulie, don't even go there. I'm going to make you watch Godfather 3.
Right, moving on to another super chat so we don't break up a fight here. Spider Dan said $9.99, says Cameron sounds bitter and desperate to promote his overdue and unwanted Avatar sequel. Does he really think his Blue Cat People movie is that much more sophisticated than superheroes? I mean, it is and it isn't. It's not really more sophisticated. It's difficult. I mean, they're about the same. Because thematically speaking, Avatar was just raised by wolves. Raised by wolves? Dances with wolves. Sorry,
Dances with Smurfs. Yeah,
yeah, or Fern Gully. Like it was a rip off of that with sort of climate change, jerk off fest.
To be honest, looking back, Avatar reminds me of a Pixar movie. To be honest, like it really does.
Oh. Interesting.
I can kind of see that.
I mean, who's crazy talking about Avatar in the movies right now? In besides Jay, like on a level of
I don't hear any hype around these new Avatar movies from anybody, not online or in my personal life.
That's what I mean.
See, no. I'm going to stop you there because I think the same. But whenever I do a video and I say that, fucking loads of people commenting on it. Loads of people. And they do get good views. So people are interested in it, amazingly. I don't know why. I don't know where they've been. It's been lurking in their Avatar-themed basements for like 14 years or however long it's been. It's madness. Accident Seller says Cameron said in an interview where it was him to suggest that JC gets shot in the head in a pizzeria or something to trip up the fans. Just Google. Yeah, I thought it was. Crazy. Thank you to everyone sending super chats, ladies and gentlemen. It goes a long way to helping support the channel. So genuinely, thank you so much. It supports these streams to keep them going. Please do check out in the description box Mistake Reviews live archives. All of these clips and also the streams will be over there. So if you can't sit through a whole stream, because they're quite long, each individual topic or bits and pieces of them are clips to individual videos. It's a lot of work, but you guys deserve it. So yeah, thank you so much. Check it out in the description box, and everyone's channel in the description box. So what was it you were talking about? You were talking about Kevin Feige's reaction to James Gunn. Was that right, Tom?
Yeah, ironic enough, they had the premiere last night, and yeah, we've gotten some the early reactions to Wakanda Forever, but it appears
a screen to share, and I'll
I can sure I can do that. Let's see here. Here's the one main bit here. But yeah, this is seemingly the top story on all the entertainment outlets, even though Wakanda Forever had its premiere last night. Everybody's talking about James Gunn instead. And I love this reaction from Kevin Feige.
Because it's a real reaction, Tom.
Well, dude, this is like, I'm so happy for him and his new girlfriend. I mean, wife to be.
I want to ask you about James Gunn and going to DC.
Yes. Well, he has got a lot of work to do for Marvel between now and May, which he's well aware of.
He's got kids to
but
worry
after
about.
that, I'll be first in line to see anything he does.
I want to ask you about James Gunn and going to DC.
Yes. Well, he has got a lot of work to do for Marvel between now and May, which he's well aware of. But after that, I'll be first in line to see anything he does.
I think it's the you know what it is to me. It's the inflection.
Yes.
When he says, but after that, when he says that, you're like, yeah, it's the inflection on that word that sells that's selling it to me that he's not best impressed. Does anyone else get that sort of vibe?
Before that, right? Here's what he does, like with a quick.
Yeah.
He looks up in the air, like how am I going to respond here?
Well, it's not just that. It's also I want to get away from this conversation. It's body language. I need to get away from this, and also the eyes. I need to consider what I'm about to say. Whoa. Madness.
No, I agree with you, Nate. Like, he really did not want that question, and that's what I think is hilarious. Is this is dominating the headlines instead of Black Panther talk, which he probably wanted. Yeah. So I'm sure that's even doubling the piss off right now.
And also that he knew that question was going to come and he had practiced that answer.
Yeah. I can totally believe that.
Yeah.
And then at that level too, it's this huge, like, egos battling each other. I mean, you can argue that Feige's like the most successful.
This is basically like, the guy that you trained or you worked with all these years, whatever, however you want to look at it, basically made this guy, right? I mean, now, granted, James worked his way up to this point, but it was after Guardians of the Galaxy that James Gunn became the James Gunn that we know. And now this guy is your rival. He's literally the same guy you are.
Yeah, for DC.
It was like he was your backup quarterback, and now he's the quarterback at the team that's against you, kind of thing. Like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy for this, but there's not. That's the sad part. Sorry, Paulie, but yeah.
No, all good.
And he's probably taking notes of all the mistakes Marvel's making, and is going to make sure that same stuff doesn't happen with the DC universe moving forward.
Well, he'd have knowledge, of the internal workings of Marvel as well, more so than most people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like DC, like he's worked for Marvel, so he knows that.
What's glaring is James is not at that premiere.
Yeah.
Almost all the Marvel people always show up to every premiere because Favreau's always at them and all that kind of stuff still.
Well,
but
your
anyway.
boy was there.
My boy Kevin was there probably.
No, Simu.
Oh, Simu? Oh. I'm not the one who hates Simu so much.
Andre, what do you think of Kevin Feige's reaction?
Well, as I said, he don't really have any other choice. He obviously did his best to deflect the question or just to dismiss it as lightly as he could, trying to downplay the severity of the situation with a snappy, pre-rehearsed response. But as you pointed out, Mr. H, his body language said it all. He tried to sound snappy, but his body language told a very, very different story. He knows how bad this is. He knows how unnecessary this is. This was the guy that was supposed to help him run and maybe at some point take over the Marvel universe. And now he's helping the competition. It actually reminds me of another story. It has to do with gaming. Remember back in the 80s, then certainly in America and many other places of the world, but not everywhere, Nintendo ruled absolutely supreme. And one of the companies that tried to take the crown from them was Sega. And they had this really hyper-aggressive marketing campaign, really mocking and ridiculing Nintendo, taking them a peg down. One of the key members of this marketing campaign was a former Nintendo employee who left the company at really, really bad terms. And he was angry, he was bitter, he was resentful. He wanted to take Nintendo down. He knew all their secrets, he knew all their culture. He knows exactly this is how far we can push it before they're going to respond. So we're going to take it all the way up to there. And these are their values. This is how they like to sell themselves. So this is what we can subvert. This is how we can take all of their values and all of their assets and turn them into weaknesses in our campaign. It was a Nintendo guy that perfected the Sega Scream and the Sega does what Nintendo don't. Of course, it wasn't just him, but a Nintendo guy was very instrumental in forming that campaign. And of course, Nintendo won by and large. But for quite a few years there, Sega actually did outsell Nintendo, including the Super Nintendo. And this reminds me of the same thing. Here is someone that was a real big shot within Marvel, but then something happened. He was forced to leave on bad terms, and then he got swooped up with the competition, and then he used his knowledge to do better at the competition.
It's funny Andre brings that story up because there's a very similar one with how Sony got started, because Sony was teaming up with Nintendo to do a disc-based system, and during all the project development stuff, they basically had a working system. Nintendo decided to not do it, and then Sony ended up saying, you know, we're going to do our own thing then. And then if you go back and look at some of the early Sony commercials, you know, there's Crash Bandicoot out there on the megaphone yelling at Nintendo headquarters, you know, and so they were same thing going after Nintendo, and now Sony and the PlayStation's like one of the biggest consoles in the world right now.
Yeah, actually, just to add a real funny postscript to that story before we carry on with the show, Nate. It wasn't that Sony went straight from failing with Nintendo to going at it at their own with the PlayStation. There was another step in between there, because before they ditched them altogether, Nintendo were like, yeah, we're not so sure about this Sega's console, this CD add-on from Sony. Let's check out the Philips and the CDI thing. Maybe they can do an add-on for us. Now, this was when they were still working with Sony. So then they were dating Sony in one end, but then they were like basically going on Tinder looking for some other options while they were doing that. And then Nintendo and the Sony were like, "What? You dare ditch us or go check out Philips, our single biggest rival and enemy? You work with us, and then you go with not Grundig or something. We could live with that, but Philips, of everyone, Philips. Well, fuck you then. We're gonna go work with your competitor." And that's when Sony started developing games for the Sega CD. And that's how they first developed their expertise in game development. They practiced with Sega.
So what you're really saying is this is this is history repeating itself with James.
Yes,
Gunn.
yes. It's history repeating itself. History
But
rhymes.
it is to a degree, isn't it? As much as the sort of the jokes there. I mean, it is. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't very. I mean, he was quite mistreated with Marvel, with the whole being sacked for a tweet thing and what tweets a joke, etc. And then them sort of crawling back to him, please come back, and all this kind of nonsense. The sort of public humiliation based around that. And
yeah, it was the biggest. I mean,
it's just a nothing burger. Like, stop
well,
it.
Not so much of a nothing burger, but it was like one of the worst things that it was like I'm sure it was a nightmare happening in real time for Kevin Feige. Right. And this is just an extension of that nightmare because as we pointed out before, the original plan was Kevin Feige needed help with phase 4. As we've seen, it was 3 times as big as every phase we've had before. And he was supposed to oversee. Well, he was supposed to have help with that. He wanted James Gunn to oversee the cosmic side of things, which means anything that has to do with space, that's James' category. I'll handle the street level stuff. So he would have been handling all the stuff that had to do with on Earth. Because they were supposed to be simultaneously having the multiverse stuff go on, along with setting up all the Secret Wars and all that kind of business that's upcoming. They're still getting there. But as we know now, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was pushed out of phase 4 and into phase 5 instead of kicking off phase 4 like it was originally meant to do. And now, after that's done, James is gone. He has been saying that for a while now. And so this, I'm sure this is a stinger to Kevin because he tried to do everything he could to probably keep him around.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I saw someone in the chat ask, "What about the Jaguar?" I know my video game console history very, very well. I'd be very happy to discuss both the Jaguar, the CD32X. But come back to Midnight's Edge in the morning tomorrow. Maybe we'll do some video game talk then. I'm not going to hijack your stream anymore with that. We have plenty more to go through.
We do. We've got some super chats real quick. So Zombie Box Reviews sent in £2 says, "Hail Mr. H, Paulie, Tom, Andre, Nick, and Tom. Nice to have you on. Andy, my dude. Appreciate that. Shane sent $9.99. Says, "Greeting Mr. H and Co. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Regarding JC, the best thing to come from Avatar was the hope that a Thundercat movie has the potential to look good. Thoughts?" Not bad. A bad thing on the back end of it. I mean, you're kind of right, I think. They are making a Thundercat movie as well, if I remember.
They're supposed to be working on one. Yeah, what's his face? I can't. The guy name escapes me. Voight, supposed to be working on
Roberts, wasn't it him?
Something like that. Yeah. So we'll have to see. As far as James Cameron, though, I know the old saying is "Don't bet against James Cameron," but at this point,
they always say that.
I'm getting sooner or later he's going to have to lose. Right. And I find something very interesting about this whole Avatar thing is even though, Nate, you said that whenever you do a video about it, you get bombarded with comments.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
At the same time, though, I've talked to some younger folks and I've seen one very interesting comment on my Twitter once where he said, "Look, I'm in my 20s. I don't get the hard on for James Cameron. You guys got to remember, he hasn't made a fucking movie in 20 goddamn years."
Yeah. No, you're right. Like, he hasn't.
This generation has no sense of who he is or why he's so important or why he's such a big deal. Add in the fact that Avatar hasn't had any staying power whatsoever. We haven't had video games, no TV shows, no comics, no toys. Yeah, now.
Yeah. to help launch the other movie. Basically.
And then you're right, Nate. There's always that one person who will pop up. Yeah, but they've got the theme park thing or whatever. It's like, yeah, but name me one property besides Pirates of the Caribbean based on a theme park ride that did anything. In fact, they all flopped. Haunted Mansion, Jungle Cruise. They're trying Haunted Mansion again, and it's gonna flop again. I guarantee it. Like, I just don't see Avatar being the big film everybody thinks it's gonna be. I think it's going to peter out somewhere around $700 or $800 million.
Yeah, I agree.
100%. Never bet against James Cameron, but if there ever was a time when you were going to gamble doing it, this is the time.
Maybe this one. Yeah, it's too volatile. This is it'd be interesting to see what happens. So, ladies and gents, that we're not finishing, but myself and Andre. I think it was last week's stream, we promised you that we were going to talk about Silent Hill, And it seems it's only me and Andre that has seen Silent.
Tom,
I didn't get a
Silent
chance.
Hill?
I didn't get a chance to watch it. Sadly, no.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
So this will be the part of the show where it just falls to me and Andre to do a retrospective review of the 2006 Silent Hill movie. So Paulie, Nick, and Tom, thank you so much for joining and being obviously on this panel and sort of co-hosting and things like that. Anything happening with you guys that you want to plug?
We got a stream this Saturday night. I'm sure we'll be bitching about Star Wars and Lucasfilm. But we have a lot of people in our chat that are really positive about it. We're really welcoming to both sides of the conversation, and that's pretty much how we roll. But for the most part, I'm doing most of the bitching. Coach is kind of hugging the fence somewhat. This Saturday night, 7:00.
Perfect. Cool. Check it out, everyone. Paulie, we got coming up anything?
Yeah, I just did an interview on my channel. Come and check that out. Subscribe. We interviewed the author of the new Aliens book, Aliens Vasquez, her legacy with her kids. I finished the book. It's pretty good. Got really good towards the end. And then I'm doing a movie watch party tomorrow night, horror film called Bingo Hell.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tom,
Hell.
Is that a straight to DVD thing?
It's on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna have the film director on maybe next week.
Nice.
But it's
awesome.
It's a nice it's kind of a funny scenario. So watch party tomorrow night. Thank you, Nate. Thanks everybody.
Awesome. Tom, what you got coming up?
I got Midnight's Edge After Dark coming up in about an hour. You know that.
So that's linked in the description box now. Finally,
sweet.
I'll put it in there.
Thank you so
get
much.
right to it. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for joining the panel. And now it will just be me and Andre to do a retrospective of Silent Hill.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Take care, guys. See y'all.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, wow. Retrospective review. Now, can you just... So, this is obviously Silent Hill 2006. What version did we watch? Because you sent me a very specific one.
Yes, the version that I sent you, because there really is only one version of Silent Hill. There's like no different cuts or anything like that. But the version that I hooked you up with is the French Blu-ray edition, and not just any Blu-ray edition, but the version that has been color timed by director Xavier Gans himself, because the American Blu-ray and the UK Blu-ray, none of them look quite right. Something happened in the transfer process where the color timing was subtly a little bit off. It's not something that you'll be able to tell if you watch the movie regularly, but if you have two screens which are calibrated the same right next to each other, and you watch the standard UK or US release on one screen, and then you compare it with this director approved transfer, you'll notice the difference. So literally the version that I hooked you up with is the version with the director's own personally overseen color timing. And to me, that's like a big deal, because I told you before that Silent Hill is perhaps not my favorite horror movie of all time, but it is right up there. I do love it. And a part of that is because it's the perfect mix of audio and visuals. Because to me, it's a visual feast.
So I've just got to say that I watched this. I watched this afternoon before literally 2 hours before the stream. So it's pretty fresh in my mind. But I watched this with a Sonos surround sound system, and I've got to tell you now, good Jesus Christ, that was amazing. The sound, was so good, so immersive, much better. Like the sound design So much better. It reminds me of, and this is a compliment, but the latest season of Love, Death and Robots had such good sound on the Sonos. And it's seldom that, you know, shows and movies have good sound, like not to that degree to being, oh, I noticed that. Normally you just go, oh, it sounds good because it's surround sound. But when you really notice it, that's when you go, wow. And that, for an old film, 2006, blew me away. Like, actually blew me away. And my dog was even like, what's going on? Like, I'm hearing stuff. What's going on? Which, again, he doesn't normally do. Testament.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Beautifully done.
Yeah, and that's what the movie is to me. It's an audio-visual feast. It's a spectacle. I mean, I get like more joy out of watching Silent Hill and listening to it on a proper screen and with a proper sound system. It's every bit or more immersive to me than Avatar is. And someone pointed out in the chat here, let's say, I believe it was Fedorevsky, who says, the blacks are crushed and whites washed out on the British and US version. Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, something is off with the contrast, with the color timing. All of that is perfect in the version that I sent you, in addition to, of course, the audio is spot on. And that is the big selling point to me. In terms of like story, mythology, it's all good. But it's the experience, it's the perfection that has gone into every single frame, into every single tone of the score. It's perfect in its execution.
Yeah,
that to me is the thing. But let's hear your review on Silent Hill, the movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember, I mean, because we spoke about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember liking it, but I don't really remember it. And what I remember wasn't what happened, but part of it was. So I remember Sean Bean being a bit more involved. So maybe I'm blending it with another one, a second one. If he's in a second one, I don't know. But I remember him being a bit more involved. But I tell you what surprised me about this, from my memory, was how it's such a female-led movie. I don't remember it being a female-led movie. Now, that's not a bad thing. This is not me saying anything
it's a perfect thing
about that.
It works for it.
Yeah, it was very good. And I, you know, you've got the likes of Laurie Holden, who I've been watching X-Files again lately, who I instantly recognize from X-Files. And I'm like, hey, it's the X-Files chick with a really long name that is almost comedic. But yeah, Rada Mitchell and Laurie Holden essentially are the two leads of this film. And they do such a good job. Very believable. And even the little girl, the actor who plays the little girl, pretty good, to be fair. Like, most child actors irritate me after a while. All of the acting was great. Sean Bean, he's barely in it, but he's great when he's in it. He has such screen presence as is. The score was fantastic. The score just seamlessly works with the sound design. So, and I think one of the things which, again, we talk about the audio-visual feast. It's not jump scares, but there's certain sound cues that keep you on edge as you're going through it. You know, the nap by the tree, they fall asleep at the tree, you know, the mother and the daughter, and then boom, a truck goes past and it's really loud. But it's those things, it's those subtle sound cues that wake you up into the movie and go, oh, well, what's going to happen next? Oh, what's going to happen next? It's not a jump scare, but it's to keep you, you know, a little bit sensitive to the sound and what's about to happen. It's very smart. It's very, very smart. I really like the use of blues to greens. So the first part of the movie, there's a lot of blues and greens, and then we obviously go into you know, the more sort of Silent Hill area, and then the colors go obviously completely different. But the use of blues and greens on that was really, really nice. And I was genuinely surprised at how good the CGI was for an old film. I don't know if you remember it being good or not. I don't know when you last watched it, but I watched it today and I was like, you know what? That's actually pretty decent CGI for an old film, 2006. That's pretty decent.
There are a couple of shots where they were like a little bit more ambitious than they should have. I feel that a couple of the CGI shots are a little bit dated, but overall, overall is really, really good. And where it does fail a little bit, it's not going to pull you out of the movie. So overall, incredibly well done. But again, but there you see like why I like this movie. It's the perfection in the execution. So it has a good story, great acting, great execution overall for an incredible experience.
Yeah, I tell you what I liked about the story specifically was its simplicity.
Yeah,
you know, and it's not necessarily, oh, this is a simple story. It's, you know, it sort of unpacks itself in a very simple way. Doesn't do needless exposition. We're introduced to the characters straight away. The issue at hand is unpacked pretty much straight away. We understand everyone's motivation, and boom, there you go. Go off. There's the story. It's very nicely done, quite seamlessly done, actually.
What I would say is that it's a very simple setup, and there's so much more to it. And because of that, it is complex, but it is not complicated, which sometimes is like a difficult balance. There are movies where they try to go for complex, but they just end up being complicated as they lose themselves in the story and in the narrative, especially when there's some kind of revelation, there's some kind of twist. Then you can either like lose your way in the narrative, over narrate or under narrate, whereas here it's just perfect because you have a very simple story, and what is behind it is a backstory with the mythology all of its own, and that's where the complexity comes into it. But still, you are drawn in by the relatively simple screen story, which is very easy to grasp. But of course, then it demands more of you to pay attention to the story and the mythology. And I have to say, I think they did a really, really good job at presenting it here for the movie, because I have never in my life played a Silent Hill video game. I'm a huge Sega Mega Drive fanboy, but I quit gaming for many, many years, just as the PlayStation 1 was coming out, and when Silent Hill first hit the market. But I moved away from gaming at that point, and when I got back into gaming, I went straight back to the Mega Drive to retro gaming. So yeah, I've never played the games. I could not tell you how good it is compared to the games, or how much they changed. I have no idea. All I can comment on is how it works as a movie. And this, to me, is a fantastic movie. So for anyone who likes to say there's never been a good video game adaptation to them, I will always say, no, you're forgetting Silent Hill. Don't know how it is as a video game adaptation, but it's a fantastic movie in its own right. You don't have to be aware of the game. So this movie just works. It's such an underrated classic in my book.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you there completely. I think as well. I was very, very impressed with the costume design. So Pyramid Head looked absolutely fantastic.
I know, right?
Pyramid Head looked fucking beast mode. Like you don't want to get in his way. And the sound, again, it goes back to the sound, right? Audio visual feast. The sound of that sword scraping along things. Wow.
And what a visual. And not just him, but all of the creature designs and the creature effects and everything. The nurses, the troll things without the arms, but especially Pyramid Head. I mean, what a movie villain! Like, I'm surprised that he isn't mentioned in the same breath as Jason and Freddy Krueger. I think that the movie must have been unfairly dismissed because it came from a video game, and many people maybe dismissed it because of that, didn't give it a chance.
I think maybe they didn't use him enough. If they had him come up a little bit more often in the movie, I think people probably would have gone, oh yeah, Pyramid Head, definitely. He's only seen like, what was he in, like three scenes?
Three scenes, yeah. 3 scenes in total. And those 3 scenes, they stick with you. Because, my God, what an... But at the same time...
through the door.
Yeah, but I think that's perfect too. Because he's also the kind of character that if you have him in one scene too many, it's not going to work. And I have to admit, I've never actually seen the sequel, Silent Hill Revelation. I always heard that it's a piece of crap because it doesn't live up to this one in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. And I see no reason to check it out because the new Silent Hill movie coming, it's this director, and he's making Silent Hill Part 2. So why waste time on that other one? And from what I understand, Pyramid Head, he has way too much screen presence in it, and he doesn't quite look right. Like they weren't able to replicate the look. And here's like the thing: this was the perfect director. Xavier Gens is perfect director for this because he has like this very unique, very French mentality and mise-en-scene and everything, and that is what this movie has. If you've seen some other French movies like Vidocq and other things, you kind of like you can see the legacy of how this movie came to be, and there's something quintessentially French horror, French fantasy about it in its execution, and it worked fantastically. But they weren't able to replicate it on the sequel without that director.
Yeah, well, I mean, my most recent French film sort of experience would have been Martyrs, which is just fucking. If you ever seen Martyrs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what I mean. Also, very fundamentally French.
Yeah,
I disagreed with your interpretation of how Martyrs ended.
How dare you? But speaking of French film, right, and it being sort of quintessentially French, I think that also goes right down to the cinematography of this film. So Silent Hill, the cinematography is very unique, more so than just an average Hollywood film. You know, you look at some of the framing choices, you're like, oh, like the framing choices where she turns down the alley and the lights go out, and then she lights her lighter. All of that, very unusual framing. It's good framing, it's artistic, but it's unusual framing. It's not stuff you would ordinarily see. I don't know what again, but also I think that's probably in part why Pyramid Head looks so good. Is because the way they framed him in the shots. There are some shots where Pyramid Head just looks just mental. You're like, whoa, because of how it's framed. I think they did such a good job there. Such a good job.
They did indeed. Amazing job. And because like Pyramid Head, like our good friend Paul Chato, he's Canoe Head. Guy with a canoe on his head, comes from like a series of sketches with like guys like Microwave Head and something. And Pyramid Head, you would think fits right in there. And in the video game, he looks cool, but not as amazing in the video. Or as in the movie, because that to me was so amazing. That this director, he was able to take all of the visuals from the video game, even those that came from technical restrictions, and just make them work in the movie. Like for instance, the fog in the video game, the fog. You know why that was in the video game?
No.
Because this is the same thing with like the first Spider-Man game for the PlayStation. There was fog in that one too, because at the time you didn't have the processing capability to like render out all of the backgrounds and everything in perfect
so you
detail.
keep it foggy, so
you make it foggy, then you have like an in-continuity reason for why you don't have to use so much processing power on the backgrounds. So that was like the necessary thing because of the game technology at the time. So then the game designers, they incorporated that into the game story, and then they just run wild with it here in the movie. They didn't have to. They didn't have to do that. They could have gone a different direction. But to me, that was also a fantastic way just to juxtapose the different worlds, that you're in some kind of like parallel dimension, which isn't really hit home until the end of the movie, which to me is one of the most striking endings in any movie ever, especially dealing with like parallel timelines and stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, let's talk about that then. Let's talk about the the story, I guess, and how it sort of wraps itself up at the end. I mean, do you think that's a satisfying end? What do you interpret the end being?
My interpretation of the end, and again, I'm not familiar with the games. I have never played the games. I don't really know the story of the games. I have only seen this movie, and it could very well be that my interpretation is warped and is even incorrect because I don't know the games. So, but my interpretation is that because of all of the events of Silent Hill, it wasn't just that multiple versions of the character at the center of it all was created, but it was such a traumatic thing that it gave rise to a ghost dimension, a parallel universe of sorts. So when you step into Silent Hill in the right conditions, and just typically if you're with like one of these characters, you're not just going to step into Silent Hill, you're going to step out of our universe and our dimension. No, not our universe, but you'll just step out of our dimension, just a little bit out of sync with our reality. So you're still there physically, but on a slightly different plane of existence. And that is kind of like where you see like the main story of Silent Hill. It is just on a different frequency. So if you and I were to go to Silent Hill, as the police in the movie did, there was nothing there. Just don't be there and breathe too much for too long, and you'll be fine. There's no ash. There's nothing like that. That's in this other, slightly off frequency dimension, and that's where the thing takes place. And the really scary Lovecraftian element of it for me is that once you get in there, maybe there's a way out, but the leads of the movie, the ones we follow, they didn't get out. They're still trapped there. But it's just a frequency difference, because you saw when they left Silent Hill, the fog didn't lift. The fog was still there, which only goes to show that the whole world is like that, because they're in this other frequency. They're slightly phase shifted to a different dimension. So their presence is partially in our world, but because of the difference, you can't really feel it. We saw that towards the very end, which to me is so striking. They drive home, but off frequency.
All the way.
So everything follows them there. They even go into the house, and they can feel right there. We can't see him, but right there is my husband and your adoptive father. We can sense him there. And then we go back to our reality, where you see the and I love this contrast. So like the air was dirty with the soot and everything in our world. It was raining. It was cleansed. It was green. It was pure. It was being washed. And then juxtaposed against them being in the living room, watching the empty couch because they feel this presence, then you see in our world that he is there. And he suddenly feels they're here watching me. And he turns around and he's confused. They're not there because he feels their presence. So they are, and that to me was like so compelling. Like they're so close. They can literally touch each other, but they can feel each other's presence, but they're still so far away because they're just operate in different frequencies. And because of that, they're effectively in different worlds.
I sort of saw it as almost like a purgatory sort of situation, like they'd almost died, because there was the thing where Laurie Holden's police officer, when she's seen by the mother, Rose, I think the character's name is she's like, oh, your head's bleeding. And I'm like, oh, maybe both of them crashed, when they entered into Silent Hill. And because they died in Silent Hill, the area where the power was, they entered this sort of purgatory realm. So similar to what you said, but they'd entered into it by that way. That was my sort of interpretation from it, because there's some sort of subtle cues-ish to that.
There's some subtle cues, and you could be right. You could be right, but I prefer. I still, because if they were dead, how would the still very much living father feel their presence? So
well, no, you're right, because also
they're just phase shifted.
Yeah, no, you're right. Actually, there's a hole in my my explanation anyway, because there was no car and there was no bodies either, so I'm completely wrong. But it was just the fact that they bumped their heads. Both of them very clearly bumped their heads, because she smashed her head into the wheel of the car, sort of crashed through there, and then as the cop,
what I think happened there.
Well.
My interpretation was that they were jolted around as they were phase shifted, as their whole bodies and their corporal beings, something happened to them. The best I can give is an episode of Star Trek where someone were phase shifted, which means that they could see everyone in our world, but they couldn't interact. They went straight through everything, and they were invisible to everyone. They were functionally ghosts. They were still there. It's just that the frequency that their atoms worked on were just slightly shifted to work on a different frequency, and that's what I kind of think happened here. That they were just slightly phase shifted, but as that happened, there was a jolt. And that jolt is what caused them all to crash and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that one. I mean, all in all, a thoroughly enjoyable film. Thanks for making me watch it again. Because I was like, yeah, I think I remember it being all right. Yeah, can't really remember though. So,
but it holds up pretty well, doesn't it? Because now it's a movie that's... It's a movie that is now more than 15 years old, which is scary because I remember watching it in theaters, being blown away by it then, and I got every version of it since. But I will say that it holds up incredibly well, and it's every single bit as good now as it was when it was released. I mean, if anything, it's better now because now every other movie is so shit.
Yeah, no, you're right. It really does hold up. I mean, having watched it today on a relatively large TV with good sound system, you'd think that a lot of the weaknesses would be quite glaring on, a high-end system, but there wasn't anything that jumped out at me where I'm like, oh, this is bad, or oh, this is bad. It was just all generally really good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. So nice to do a little retrospective for Halloween, I thought we'd do that. Got to talk about horror at least once. Do you have anything else to add to the Silent Hill retrospective?
Only that for those of you watching who haven't seen it yet, go check out Silent Hill. And if you ever have the opportunity to buy the French Blu-ray that is approved by director Xavier Gans himself, that's the one you want. It is very English friendly. Because while it was made in France for a French audience, they know that the movie has an international fan base. So just like the Germans do with their amazing special editions for Blu-ray and 4K releases, they're the best on the planet. They know there's an international market here, so the releases are very English friendly.
Yeah, check it out. The one you sent was very, very good. I enjoyed it very much. So on that note, ladies and gents, I think we will round out the stream here. Like I've been saying during the stream, Missed Reviews live archives. There's a link to that channel in the description box. It's the channel where clips and highlights and everything from these streams will be put up, as well as the episodes. Follow me over on Twitter and Instagram at Missed Reviews on Twitter, Mr_Nate_H over on Instagram. Andre, plug away, my dude. Plug some stuff.
You can find me on Midnight's Edge here on YouTube. I mean, that's the place you want to go first and foremost to see my my takes on everything and everything that goes with that. We also do live streams 3 times a week. The clips from that in addition to the full streams you can find on Midnight's Edge live archives.
I know, I stole the name.
Which has been yeah, which has been doing pretty well. We have some really cool clips there that's got like a lot of attention. And I'm amazed with how good some of those videos are doing. Like, for instance, our discussion on the Woman King on live archives got more than 100,000 views, which is more than what either of our standalone videos got on the same.
But it goes to show that YouTube sandboxes channels after a while. Like they really do. Like,
yeah,
they've just gone, nope, you won't get any more views. Algorithm doesn't like you anymore.
Exactly.
Whatever. And new channels pop up or whatever, and then they're not hit with it. It's very strange. Really strange. Literally same content, but different channel.
Literally
same
content.
Blows up.
Yeah.
What? Same thumbnail designs. Like, why? Why does one blow up and one doesn't? Literally makes no. Well,
frustrating. But anyway, I'm really happy with some of the clips that we have there, and especially Midnight Edge. Like, our videos are very scripted, very stylized. It takes a long time to make. Live streams we get up much quicker. So there, we even cover the most recent news that Ben Affleck is back for 3 more Batman movies, and how that. And that came out just before the news that James Gunn was back, and shortly after that is when Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2 was pushed back to at least 2025, possibly longer. And we discussed the implications of that there in that clip with some industry insiders. So yeah, go check that out.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. We'll be streaming every Tuesday and Thursday with great panel guests, Andre obviously being one of them. So please tune in, 9 p.m. UK time. Head to the channels, check them out. But thank you all so much. Take care.